Last month, I wasn't super great with my reading habits, like in any way. To be fair, I don't think it was anything specifically that I was doing. I was kind of in the middle of just being really tired, a lot of unexplainable exhaustion. And it was the kind of exhaustion where I would try to read before bed and I would make it one, two, maybe 3 pages, and I would be falling asleep. Not super typical of me. I'm usually someone that could get through like 20 to 30 pages before I go to bed at night. So basically, I hardly read a single thing in the month of February, which is such a stark difference between how I was reading in January, because in January, I read like 4 books, started a 5th one, and then I just got to February and it was like my body was like, it told me to hold up. It said, slow down, you can't really do this right now. I don't remember if I've shown this in my other vlogs, like up to this point, but I started this literally back like almost since my birthday in January. Hello, Saturn. And I am slowly making my way through it, and I've only just recently kind of made a much bigger dent in this book. This book is so hefty. We are talking almost 600 pages, and it has been a very long time since I have gotten myself trying to read a book of this length. I typically read 200 to 300 pages. I'm working so hard to try and finish this book because my stream is having a book club and we are gonna be reading Dracula, and that is another book that is like 500 pages and I haven't started it yet. There's a part of me that knows I should just go ahead and start the book because it is a lot of pages and I need to start diving into it. But I'm also loving this book so much that I'm not feeling ready to like pause and move on to something until I finish this. I'm getting to the point where it's like just I have a few errands that I need to run, and I kind of started getting in this mood this week. I want to bake something this weekend, so I think I'm gonna go to the grocery store and grab some supplies that I might need. I have never made cinnamon rolls before, and I really want to try and make them. Sometimes I get pretty lazy, and I do like to use just like the Pillsbury Doughboy cinnamon rolls out of the can, but I do tend to find that particular style of cinnamon roll in the can is a little bit drier for my taste, but I tend to really like the frosting that comes with it, because that's something that I run into, is that I always find recipes for homemade frosting to be way too sweet, and it's not my favorite. I'm gonna try a cream cheese frosting recipe that I found. For the cinnamon roll recipe, I'm just using the one from Love and Lemons. I always kind of do that. I usually tend to, if I'm starting with something brand new that I've never made before, I'll usually start with something like Love and Lemons just to see like how the process is, because they're usually pretty easy and very straightforward, which I tend to like. And then if there's anything I want to change, that's when I start to kind of scour the internet a little bit more. I tend to look at stuff on Instagram or Pinterest or TikTok for recipes from smaller creators to see if there's something else that I would prefer. I'm really not in the mood to look super cute before going out, so I'm just gonna toss my hair in a bandana, brush my teeth, then head out and run some errands and grab some stuff. I did it. I finished reading Our Share of Night by Mariana Enriquez, and I think it's a masterpiece. This is officially my favorite horror book I think I have ever read. I'm so glad that I stayed strong and made it through my reading slump, because getting to finish this book and experience it was, oh my God, it's just incredible. If you're interested in reading this book, it is definitely slower paced, because not only is it sitting close to 600 pages, but there's also a ton of world building involved in here. I keep telling folks that there's like two types of world building going on, and we are getting the history and background of the cult that is kind of like the main evil in this story, but you are also getting the historical IRL background of 1960s Argentinian dictatorship. I loved how much world building there was going on in this. I am not someone that typically really likes a lot of world building, at least when I'm reading books. I like to just kind of like dive in. I like the plot to just like take off and go. I read an average between like 300 to 400 page books, and they tend to be more like faster, medium paced. More often medium paced is usually where I sit. But I felt like the world building in this book was just so undeniably, I don't know, it was really, really creepy, and it really gave me a sense of of dread, and just the fact that there's just never ending danger. Never ending. I'm not saying that this is a gothic book. I'm just saying that it gave me a very similar sense of dread that a lot of like gothic horror might feel like. So if you've seen Dracula by Robert Eggers, that was launched, I guess now 2 years ago. The Witch would be another great example. I would even go so far as to say even stuff like Hereditary or Midsummer, where it's just kind of like never-ending impending doom that just sort of sticks with you and makes you really nervous and very, very unsteady until like the wildest shit will happen, and then it will just take off for pages. And let me tell you, when this thing took off, it was absolutely horrifying. There was a lot of faces being made. I even had some instances my partner had to come over and be like, is everything okay? Like, are you all right? Just because it does get pretty gross. But I loved how all of the different plot points were woven together, and how all of the different sections of the book were able to be connected in the end, or even as pieces fell slowly, I might add, as the story went on. And it was just incredible. It's a new favorite. As horrifying as it is, the root and the core of the story is honestly just like how far you would go to protect the ones that you love, which I think is so fitting when you're in a world where cults are dangerous. Being in a dictatorship is extremely dangerous. And I think that never-ending impending doom was so well written by this author, and I want more. At the same time, a lot of heartbreak in this one. I felt really, really sad for a lot of the folks involved, especially the main like young boy in the story, Gaspar. That poor kid just gets the short end of the stick like the entire story, and it's extremely heartbreaking. Like it's not an easy read by any means. But if you are into horror, if you are into world building, if you are into stories about processing grief, then this is for you. This is absolutely for you. So now that I finished that, I have started 2 books. I normally try to just read 1 book at a time, but I gotta get a book read for my stream's book club. We are gonna be reading Bram Stoker's Dracula. I have to stop pretending that Gothic literature isn't for me, because this shit rocks. I'm only 70 pages in. But I got that far in like a day and a half, and I am loving the vibes so far. It's so creepy. The impending doom just sits with you right away. I am so excited to keep reading this book. The other book that I started is The Imposium. This is Olga Tokarczuk, if I am pronouncing that correctly. Very, very early on in this one as well too. I'm only about 50 pages in. We follow a young Polish person in 1913, it looks like, who's suffering from tuberculosis and is going to a health resort to try and recover. I'm still getting established exactly what is going on, but there's definitely some weird vibes at the health resort. It feels like there might be something or someone kind of watching the place. I have no idea where this is headed yet, but there's a couple of creators that I follow that have talked about this book and have spoken very highly about it. And I wanted to give it a shot. Very, very fun so far. Very different. Excited to give you updates on that. Anyway, I have gone on way too much of a tangent. And I need to finish up these cinnamon rolls because the timer went off. So I need to do the next portion. But I have been sitting in here and yapping for like 10 extra minutes. So